Welcome, fellow technology lovers, to the Solid Signal podcast for the week of July 20th, 2015. I realized when I was thinking about it, it has been a while since I did a truly technical podcast. And the only answer I have for why is just that the podcasts where I just go off the rails and talk about something weird tend to get so many more listens than the purely technical ones that maybe I'd gotten a little bit gun shy. But that doesn't mean I should ignore the really technical aspects of what's going on with satellite TV. And so here, my friends, is going to be a much more technical podcast, and I'll try to make it entertaining. Don't stop it now. Come on, keep going. You can make it through. It's only 5 minutes. So let's talk about quad shield cable. Okay, not the most glamorous subject in the world. Quad shield cable is coaxial cable that has an extra layer of shielding around it. If you've ever opened up a regular coax cable, you've noticed that there's the center wire with some white foam around it. That white foam is covered with a silver aluminum foil sort of thing, and then there's braided wire beyond that. With quad shielded cable, there's an extra layer of aluminum foil type stuff. It's not really aluminum foil. And an extra layer of braiding. Oftentimes this is done so that there's extra shielding if you're running the cable through an area that's got, high degrees of RF. It can give you a little bit longer run, although that's usually not the case. And sometimes it's just done by people who figure, oh, well, I have to have the absolute best thing, and if I don't have the absolute best thing, then I'm not going to do as well as I hope. I'd say 90% of the time that's how quad shield cable gets sold. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against quad shield cable, not at all. What I'm against is spending extra money when you don't need to. For the most part, home satellite TV and cable systems do not require quad shield cable. Antenna systems certainly do not require quad shield cable. Quad shield cable can be used for industrial installations for a lot of reasons, but for home, it's just not necessary. In a lot of times, quad shield cable will require special connectors at the end, a special tool to put on those connectors. It's just something you don't need to do, folks, and that's the simple part of it. On the other hand, well-constructed dual shield cable, especially with a solid copper conductor, is more or less mandatory for satellite TV use. It's not the shielding that really makes the difference. In a lot of cases, it's the quality of that center conductor, the fact that it's solid copper, and the quality of the foam dielectric, which is what they call that white stuff, that goes around the edges of it. That's what really makes a good cable. Shielding is important, of course, but in a home situation, it's pretty rare that you're going to have the kind of RF interference that really tests the level of shielding that you have. It's just that simple. And then, of course, there's the question of RG11 cable. RG11 cable comes up in conversation because it's designed for really long runs, and I never recommend using RG11 cable within the home, or in fact for any run less than 100 feet. There are some folks who say it doesn't really make a lot of difference, but I have been told by manufacturers of cable that RG11 cable should never be used for runs that short, and it should only be used for runs over 100 feet. RG11 cable is really stiff. It's really hard to make. It does always require special connectors and special tools to put it together. And if you're not comfortable with when you should be using RG11 cable, the truth is you probably shouldn't be using it. It's only designed for times when you need especially long runs. Other than that, believe me, folks, it's a pain in the neck to use, and I would just avoid it unless you need it. Finally, let's talk about burial grade cable. Burial grade cable is obviously designed to be buried in the ground, and I would use burial grade cable anytime that you're putting cable underground, although I also personally like to put it inside of a PVC conduit, which gives it just a little bit more protection from people digging and not knowing that it's there in the first place. Just be sure that if you're using burial grade cable, that it's also rated for the kind of project that you're doing. For example, if you need solid copper core cable because you're using DirecTV Swim, that your burial grade cable also has a solid copper core. You see, folks, that wasn't so bad, was it? I don't know. We made it through 5 minutes of solid technical discussion. Maybe I'll do this a little bit more often.